Hi everyone, my name's Julie Poole. I'm a hypnotherapist and I've been specialising for the last 5 or 6 years of my practice in working with people with abuse issues, post-traumatic stress and various other traumas. Some of these traumas come from childhood sexual abuse, and I'm talking today about memory. Some of my clients find it very difficult that they can't remember all of the detail of what happened to them. Some of them can't remember any of it. They know something bad did, but they can't understand why they can't remember, and it frustrates them. And the frustration adds to the feelings of helplessness and hopelessness. So I want to give you a little bit of information today about memory and about why you can't remember, and help you feel okay about that, because that in itself reduces some of the trauma. In the description box below, you'll see links to my website, and you'll also find an information sheet on this subject. It's information sheet number 3. It's a free information sheet for you to be able to download and keep or print off or do whatever you want with. Alright, so let's talk about memory a little bit. I've got my computer in front of me. I'm just referring to some of my notes as we talk, so if my eyes come off the screen, just bear with me. Okay. All right. Now, first of all, I'm not a psychologist. I have studied psychology. I have a degree in sociology, and I have a reasonable understanding of the way biologically the memory works. But I'm using more about my experience of working with clients to explain the way that I understand it and the way that it seems to work with the many hundreds of people I've worked with this. And by the way, if you'd like to work with me, don't worry about where you are in the world. I do nearly all of my sessions on Skype or FaceTime, so you can be anywhere. And again, you'll find the link to my website with more information about that down below. All right, so let's talk about memory. Now, memory is a confusing one. Something happens, an experience, an event, and our mind creates a response to it. It creates a memory. This event pops into the short-term memory, and the short-term memory needs to be quite small. If you imagine how many experiences you have in a day, if you could consciously remember every single thing, your mind would get very overloaded. So it's almost like a 2 or 3 process thing. There's the short-term memory, behind is the long-term memory, and there's a kind of tube in the middle going to it, okay? So your short-term memory is quite short, about 15 seconds. And the memory goes into it, where it's then absorbed and it's then processed as it moves back and into the long-term memory. And the way I describe the long-term memory is that it's a little bit like a massive filing system, and it needs to be a very sophisticated filing system to be able to retrieve memories and bring them back forward into the conscious awareness. So if you imagine your memory filing system way at the back of your mind, a big huge room like a library, and thinking about a library is quite a good way to look at it, the way that things are cross-referenced. So you might have a filing cabinet, for example, with all of your information that you know about flowers. There's all your flowers, and there'll be another filing cabinet with everything you know about colours. So if you see a pink rose, your mind will go to the filing cabinet for flowers and find the one for rose, and then it will go to the filing cabinet for colour and find the one for pink and put the two together, bring it forward and say that's a pink rose. And that's basically the way the memory works. And there's something else that happens called priming. So when we look at that pink rose, first of all, our mind will say, that's a colour and it's a flower. So it will immediately go to the right filing cabinet where the flowers are. It kind of prepares it so that it knows kind of where to go. So really with memories, what happens is we end up with a whole load of filing cabinets, and with each new experience that comes, the event, the memory of it, pops into the right filing cabinet, so that we can access it. Now, if we're talking about a sexual experience for a child, children are not meant to have these experiences. They're not ready. There's no filing cabinet that's been prepared. It's not in existence. So what happens when something happens for the first time? Something that's never happened before. Where does the memory go if there's no preceding event that matches it? What happens if there's no filing cabinet for this event? This is where the problem happens. the memory can't get filed. It kind of gets lost. It is in there, but it's got nowhere to go. So for us to file a memory, we need to first understand what it is. This is called processing. Once it's been processed, which is basically understanding it, the brain prepares the correct filing cabinet for the memory to fit in. So for a child who is experiencing sexual events, there's no cabinet. It's not been created. So there's no understanding of what this event is. There can't be any processing. So the child doesn't know what to do with this thing that's happened to them, this event that just happened. It has no name, it has no label, it has no filing cabinet. So there's no understanding. A child of 6, 7 or 8 should have no understanding of sex. They don't know what it is, they don't understand what just happened, and they certainly don't know where to file it. So let's imagine this enormous memory room with all of its cabinets and with stacks of paper piled on top of loads of cabinets. All of these unfiled pages are events that we don't yet know where to put. Memories without a place to go. So they just sit there unfiled. Now imagine trying to go into this room and find a memory that has no drawer and no filing system. It'll be in that huge stack of paper over there. How can we process it? How can we find it? So we add a little bit of denial into the mix as well, because we don't want to particularly understand this thing that happened to us. So there's resistance and rejection. So not only does it not get filed, it gets shoved into a box with a lid, locked and shoved somewhere else. People often call it Pandora's box. It stays hidden out of the way and it can stay there for decades. Then one day out of the blue, some part of your inner self notices the box. The box starts to move forward out of the dark, out of the blackness of the back of this room. And it starts to come forward. And there are little broken bits of memories, little fragments, and they don't seem to make sense. And with that is an immense amount of fear that comes with it, because each of these memories is attached to an emotion. And so as the memory comes forward, the emotion comes forward, and we start to feel that old fear or that old shame or that old disgust, and we want to push the box away. So the box tries to come forward, we push it back, and that can go on and on and on. Now over time, those broken bits find their way further and further forward towards the conscious mind. And the conscious wants us to figure it out, and the subconscious wants us to figure it out, to sort it out, to deal with it, and then file it away as an event that once happened. So, through therapy, we can start to find those broken bits, those fragmented bits. We can begin to make sense of them. Because as an adult now, we have a filing cabinet ready for sex and sexual experiences. We can find those bits, we can file them, we can put them away. We can release the emotional attachment to them. So they're just an event that once happened. And if our deep conscious doesn't want us to remember because it's just too traumatic, then let's allow that to happen. Let's just allow that to be okay. To say, do you know what? I don't want to remember, and at the moment it's not happening. So that's okay. And it may always be like that. I might go to my grave not knowing what happened to me, but I know something did, and I know it hurt, and I know it was traumatic. So I can still deal with the emotional fallout, but I'm going to just leave the memory alone. Sometimes clients will say, I want to find these memories, and all of a sudden they start coming forward, and they come forward through hypnosis. Now, there's been a lot of controversy over this over the years, and this is because there are a lot of hypnotherapists out there, and certainly there used to be, who didn't understand how hypnosis works, and it works through suggestion. And so if the hypnotist starts suggesting there's all these memories there, the person can actually create them, and they're not true, and these are false memories, and that's given the hypnosis a bad rep for a lot of years. Before I was a hypnotherapist, I worked within local authorities and within vulnerable people, and we were trained, I was trained for quite a long time on interviewing skills where you don't prime somebody, you don't suggest anything, you create a safe space so that their own memories come forward, you're not creating them for them. And I'm always very careful when I do this work with my clients that I'm not influencing in any way. And for some of them, the memories come forward and suddenly all click together into a very ugly jigsaw, which we then put away in the memory file and deal with the aftermath. For others, they never remember. So my message to you is to understand that it's not your fault that you can't remember. It's not your fault that those memories are fragments and bits and very blurry. It's not your fault. So just allow that to be and say, do you know what, if I was ready to remember these, or I needed to remember them, if it was going to help me in any way to remember them, then I probably would. So if I'm not remembering them, I'm just going to accept that that's my subconscious protecting me from something I don't need to see. It's not going to serve any purpose. If it is going to serve purpose, it'll come forward. And for many people, they can't find their peace until it's come forward. And so allow it to be whatever it is for you. And I hope this little video has helped you to understand the way that memories are blocked for children who had sexual abuse in childhood, and now that they're adults, they still can't remember. So let go of the frustration and let the memory just sit wherever it is hiding, and let it be, unless it starts really pushing to come forward, in which case it wants you to deal with it. So if you need help to do that, the links are below. All right, take care. Bye.